So yesterday I got an email from one of our subscribers who was looking to buy a smartphone for his parents. He wanted to buy a budget smartphone with better processor, refresh rate, display, etc. And then it struck me, if I want to buy a smartphone for my parents, I would prioritize a good software any day over a better processor, camera and display, etc. Here's why. So our parents, they don't do a lot of gaming, they don't take a lot of pictures, rather they prefer a stock Android experience because it's difficult for the older generation to tell apart an ad from an app. And enter the Moto G40 Fusion, the only budget phone with stock Android. But would I recommend this to my parents? Well, so far it's pretty evident that this smartphone has a good battery, good software and a good processor. But I still don't recommend this to my parents. Why? Well, the look and the feel of the smartphone, it's not something that I'm comfortable with, and that's the reason it's not something that I would personally recommend to my parents. Also, there's a much bigger picture here about the smartphones that often get missed out in the first impression. For that, I highly recommend you watch the end of the video for the conclusion. So, this is Pranal, you're already watching TechWiser, and here's a full review of Moto G40 Fusion. And the keyword here is review. So, let's quickly see what you get inside the box. In the box, you get the phone with the back cover. There's also a 20-watt charger and a Type-C to USB cable. Like many phones, this phone also has few things common, like a huge 6.8-inch screen, 120Hz LCD display, a mid-range 732 processor and a 6000 mAh battery. For storage options, you get 4GB RAM and 64GB internal storage. You also get a hybrid SIM card slot with either 2 SIM card or 1 SIM card and 1 SD card. Now, the only difference between G40 and G60 is that the G60 has 108 megapixel camera and 128GB, while the G40 has 64 megapixel camera and 64GB of internal storage. Every other specs are exactly the same, which is why this review will also hold true for G60 as well. Now, if you're confused between G40 and G60, I recommend going for the G40 because the upgraded camera as well as internal storage does not justify the 4000 price difference. With that out of the way, from this point onwards, we will be only talking about what's different, the pros and the cons. So let's begin. So starting up with the build quality, which is something that I didn't like about the phone. I mean, there are a lot of things to not like about the build quality of phone, like the weight, size of the display, position of the fingerprint and LCD panel. Let's see them one by one. So if you hold the phone in one hand, it's huge and thick. It's a 6.8-inch display and weigh roughly around 225 grams. That's heavy. Usually 180 to 200 grams is a sweet spot and beyond 220, it's really heavy. To give you perspective, here's a comparison of all popular smartphones under 15,000 rupees. And it's not just heavy, it's also thick at 9.7mm, which I understand is because of the huge 6000 mAh battery. But still, I didn't get used to the weight even after using it for a long time. So imagine this being in your shirt or pocket, etc. Overall, if you are using this phone in day-to-day life, make sure you like to use heavy and bulky phone because this is definitely not a one-handed device. Now coming to the display, it's huge. It's a 6.8-inch Full HD 120Hz IPS LCD display. Another thing that I didn't like about this smartphone is this fingerprint reader that goes all the way to the top. So you have to raise your finger every time you have to unlock your phone. It's an inconvenience every time you have to use it and something you don't get used to it. Like I said, you will really have hard time using this smartphone, especially if you're like me who has a medium to small hands. Another thing that I would like to add about the display is that it's LCD. Now you do get AMOLED display with Redmi Note 10 Pro, Realme 8 and even Samsung F41, which is far better than LCD. At least Motorola could have gone with AMOLED display in their expensive version, that is Moto G60. So far the cons of the phone is that it's heavy, tall and lack an AMOLED display. Now, not everything is bad about the smartphone. Moving on to one of the best features of this smartphone is the Snapdragon 732G, which you won't find at this price range. For instance, the Realme 8 comes with G95 and the Redmi Note 10 Pro comes with 732. But that will cost 16,000 rupees. Not to forget, it's also hard to buy. Poco X3 has the same 732G, but it's 15,000 rupees. So yeah, for the processor, this phone is really underpriced, and that's a good thing Motorola did. Now talking about the performance in terms of day-to-day tasks, it's awesome. Like normal texting, WhatsApp, multitasking, you won't never complain. In games like COD, it can do heavy graphics with heavy frame rate. I played around 45 minutes to 1 hour and there's no unnecessary overheating. It does get warm, but not to the point that it starts throttling or shutting down. And moving on to best part of this smartphone, yes, the software. Like I said in the beginning, this is the only smartphone in the budget range that comes with stock Android experience and no bloatware whatsoever. It comes with Android 11 right out of the box. Plus you don't get to see ads anywhere on the phone, not on the lock screen, not on the file manager or even the Motorola app. It's nowhere. No third-party apps except Facebook, which you can uninstall. And coming to the Moto UI, I'm a fan of a Motorola UI. Now Motorola UI has few tricks. For example, you can do this chop chop to flash and twist to open the camera. But here's a new one. If you are in the app like YouTube, you can just swipe twice and it will put it in split screen mode. Once done, you can open Telegram app and chat at the same time while watching a video. How cool is that? Now in terms of update, Motorola promised the next Android 12 update as well as the 2 years of security update. But shouldn't this be a norm? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And finally we come down to the camera, which often get missed in the first impression in the name of future updates. Well, it comes with 64 megapixel main sensor, 8 megapixel ultra wide, which also acts as a macro camera, and obviously you have to put it there, the 2 megapixel depth camera. Here are certain samples that you can check out. The main sensor takes a lot of contrasty photos. As you can see, the shadows are mostly crushed, but that's not bad. There's just a different look to these images. However, when you move to human portraits, it's bad. There is a bit of smoothing on the face and the images are definitely underexposed. Moving on, the wide angle camera has brighter look, but there is a lot of distortion. And now the wide angle camera also has autofocus, and because of that we have a lot of photos missing focus. And when you take macro shots using the wide angle camera, the distortion at the edge are zoomed in, as you can see with this green rock. And here are some more selfies. So all in all, the camera is the weak part of this phone. However, we did notice a weird lag with G60 and the G40 camera whenever you move to 108 or 64 megapixel photo. There's a lot of waiting time when you press the button and the photo is taken. By that time, the subject has already moved. Or even if you check out your recent photos, it takes some time to process that. If you compare it with the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max, which has the same processor, it's really fast. Now the important thing here is these bugs were supposed to be gone after a future update, but that never happened. So yeah, the saying that you should never buy a phone based on future updates, that holds true again. Now talking about the network and sensors, it pretty much has all the necessary sensors. However, one thing to keep in mind is there is no carrier aggregation. Also, for some weird reason, there is no compass in it. So if you're using Google Maps, you will have a hard time finding out north, west, east or south. And finally, we come down to the battery of this Moto G40 Fusion, which is huge 6000 mAh battery. And partly this is the reason why this phone is a lot bulky. And it can easily last a day or even day and a half. You get a 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. I never have to charge this phone in the daytime. Also, there is a decent 20-watt charger, which is better than some of the brands that only offer 15 or sometimes even 12 watt of charger at this price range. Now, before we come to the bigger picture, let's sum up this smartphone. So the Moto G40 Fusion has a really good software with no bloatware at all, a really good battery with 20-watt fast charging and a really good processor for gaming. But the phone has a bad form factor. It's heavy, it's thick and it's tall. So if you're someone who watches a lot of Netflix, clicks a lot of pictures and need a one-handed smartphone, this is definitely not for you. But if you're someone who plays a lot of games, you're bored of MIUI and Realme UI ads, and if you're looking for a refreshing good smartphone, then this is one for you. But the bigger conclusion here is never buy a phone based on first impression. Always wait for reviews. And sadly, most of the non-techie users don't understand the difference between both of them. So here's one example. So I was talking to one of my cousins few weeks back and he was looking to buy a new phone for 15,000. Of course, since he couldn't get the Redmi Note 10 Pro, he ordered the Moto G40 Fusion and asked for my review. Now, it's a decent smartphone, but too bulky for me to recommend. So I suggested him to check out the other reviews, which he said was decent. Now here's the thing. This is an old conversation when the phone has just released in the market and there was no full review out there at that time. But the average consumer, they don't understand the difference between a full review and first impressions. Now let me give you a brief idea. So first impression, as the name suggests, is the first impression of the smartphone. The creator often gets the phone just a day or two before filming the video, which is why they are allowed to say generalized stuff like the phone is a little bit heavy, the camera bugs are there but it can be fixed with software update, or the fingerprint, it can be a little bit lower but you will get used to it. But as you can see, that never happened. So yeah, always ask your favorite creator to do full review, and only after watching couple of full reviews from different creators, buy a smartphone, so that you have a clear idea of whether the smartphone is for you or not. On that note, if you get a clear picture after watching this video, subscribe to TechWiser. It's our job to help you become TechWiser. It's Mrinal signing off. Catch you guys in the next one.